Hello, Foundations of Business. Welcome to Lesson 4. Sorry I'm not in class today. A couple of things that I had to complete outside of school. Wasn't able to make it in. So today, we're going to go ahead and get started with some entrepreneurship algebra to change things up a little bit for Lesson 4. So in a couple moments here, I'm going to have you pause the video and think about this question. So if we look at this question here, it says milk plus cream plus sugar plus eggs plus cocoa plus a freezing container plus X equals chocolate ice cream. I want you to take a couple seconds to think about what X could be. Go ahead and pause, think about it, and we'll resume. Okay, so some of you might have been thinking it's probably ice, or it could be salt, or it could be something like that. You're wrong. What I want you to think of X is all the effort that you'd have to put in to make the chocolate ice cream. So sure, you could go out and you could buy milk, cream, sugar, all the stuff, but you don't have ice cream. You have to put in effort by putting it together and creating the chocolate ice cream. So this is called added value. So the added value is the fact that you could also go out there and just buy the chocolate ice cream without having to buy any type of ingredients to make it yourself. So this added value could help you determine a lot of things, such as how much am I going to charge for that added value, and what other things people might want in their chocolate ice cream. Now I want you to also think about it in a way of what if I had some type of dietary restriction that wouldn't allow me to eat something from that list? Am I going to have to change the ingredients? Okay, so that's what I want you to think about with your products. Okay. Is there something in your product or service that the customer isn't going to want? Or is there something they're going to need? Okay, so if I'm someone with a dietary restriction, I'm probably going to end up buying the left side of this equation here because I can change the ingredients however I want so that I have a better product for me. Okay, so with that being said, you just got finished with working through the customer profile. In the customer profile, we focused on breaking down our customer segments for different types of products here. And there's no right or wrong answers, but again, we'd want to consider different things about our customers. So what demographics? So what is their age? What is their gender? What are their occupations? Because again, there's many different products that people are based on who they are, they're going to purchase. Okay? If I'm selling makeup, my primary customer is probably going to be females. So gender does matter here. If I'm selling children's toys, age is going to play a factor, because if I'm a teenager, children's toys aren't going to be a big thing for me to purchase. So demographics really play a big important role here. Geographic information. So where do your customers live? Okay, this helps us, one, position our product to make sure it's close to them, and it also helps us determine where we're going to advertise our product. Psychographic information, so lifestyle, hobbies, interests. This stuff allows us to determine what things they like to do. Where do they go? Where can we find our customers? Maybe something about their lifestyle helps us design a product that would fit them. And then what are their buying situations? So what kind of features and things do they need to be happy? Okay, so when you're thinking about the ice cream scoop, we might be thinking of, is it something that's easy to clean? Does it have the button on the side to release ice cream? And all those kinds of things. And again, big thing that I want you to think about here, okay, is we made all these different types of guesses about the different products here and in your product or service as well. But do you really know the answers to that? Probably not. So the thing that we got to consider here is we want to think, how can we figure out what the real answer is? And the answer to that is research. So today what we're going to do is actually go ahead and we're going to actually talk about market research methods. Okay, so the ending assignment or the big assessment for Lesson 4 that you're going to do is you're actually going to create some survey questions, and you'll end up actually pushing out that survey and collecting results from real people. And then what you will do is you'll actually take a poster and you're going to put all the results, and you're going to create the poster to show what you learned about your customers and your product based off the research you've done, and you'll present that to the class. Okay, so we're going to talk about the different market research methods today, and then I'm going to explain your assignment to you so that you can finish that, and then we'll continue on Monday. So market research methods, like I said, we figured out what our business idea is, we've pitched it to our peers, and the next step we need to make sure is our product viable and who our customer is. Okay, so before we can sink a bunch of money and a bunch of time into our business, we really need to think about who our customer really is and know as much as possible as we can about them. Okay, so we're going to look at those market research methods. Now, one thing you also need to consider on your student resource, if you scroll down here, there is an organizer that I'm going to ask that you do fill out. Everything in lesson 4 will be a graded item, so you need to complete this entire document. Okay, so as I'm talking in this video, I do encourage you to take some notes. Okay, so this first box is the type of research that I'm talking about, and there's 5 different researches that we're going to do today, and give me a brief description. I will also discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each, so make sure you go through here and put those in there. Okay, so let's get started. 5 different methods that we're going to talk about. So observing customer behaviors, networking with and targeting customers and competitors, holding focus groups, interviewing customers and conducting surveys, and conducting experiments. Okay, so these are all examples of primary research. So that's the kind of research that you do firsthand and you collect the data, and it's all real results. The important goal of research is to understand the market, relevant trends, and customer desires and needs. Your business will be most successful when you have a really good understanding of your customers and the competitors that are trying to obtain those exact same customers. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to go through each one of these really quickly. Okay, so the easiest way to research your customers is to simply watch them shop and use products. So observing your customers. By doing this, you can see things like what your customers really like about a product and what things they really dislike. You can also look at customers and how they use items similar to yours and see how they interact with it. So an example, have you ever watched an older person use a cell phone? Most likely they were struggling with it. They were probably cursing at it, and they weren't having a really good time with it. So what can you, with this observation, what could you do with it is my question. Well, you could look at the things that they're struggling with and maybe consider what kind of design the phone has and how you can make it better so that that customer struggles less. Okay, so if it's a similar item to yours, now you know what things you need to focus on. Okay, you can also observe customers and see what things they shop for and what things they actually buy and what things they put back on the shop. This will tell you a lot about the customer, and you can get a feel for what things that they really do care about. Okay, so your advantages of observing customers. It's easy to do. All you simply have to do is watch people. You can track trends, so if there's a lot of people having the same issue or if it's just a couple people. It's also very inexpensive to complete. Your disadvantages, you don't get to interact with people and you don't really get to ask them for their opinions. You're just observing what they're doing. Moving on, your second type of research is networking with customers. Okay, so this is another way to conduct research. You simply take time to talk with people you work with, friends and family, potential customers, and competitors. This allows you to gain insight, advice, and critical information about your product or service because you can tailor the conversation to things that you want to know about your product or service. Your advantages with this, okay, very inexpensive. You just get to talk to people. It doesn't cost you any money. Your results could be highly valuable because you get first-hand opinions on your product. Disadvantages, it may be very hard to get people to open up about your product if they don't trust you. And it could be hard for you to go up to random people you don't really know and have these conversations with them. So this is why social skills are really, really important in the business setting. Okay, moving on. Third type of research, okay, conducting surveys, questionnaires, or conducting interviews. Okay, things that you can focus on with these kinds of things are habits. So what do people do in the morning? What time do they wake up? How often do they exercise? What do they eat? Things that could help you determine key factors about your product or service or the problem that you're trying to solve. You can also tailor your questions to be related to your problem or solution, or you can also ask questions about pros and cons about a product or service that you've created. Okay, this can allow you to get really good information about what you're trying to do. Surveys and interviews can be completed in many different ways. Okay, they can be completed over the phone, mail, in person, or even online. Okay, so your advantages, easy to do. You create the questions, you push it out, or you complete the interviews. Your data can be collected and analyzed qualitatively or quantitatively. So you can look through the responses that people have given you and compare them and see how often things happen. You can also look at the numbers and you can do calculations and figure out different ways, things that way. You're also really able to figure out the specifics on the answer or the questions that you're trying to get answers to. Your disadvantages. Okay, people may not be honest. Think about the surveys that you fill out with Gish. How often are you really how often are you really honest with that? People may also not complete them. Okay, so you might not get reliable results. So things you want to consider with a survey is it's definitely not the only thing you want to do when conducting research. You want to use other types of research. The last two that we're going to focus on. So the first one, first here, are focus groups. Okay, so focus groups are a situation where you bring together 8 to 12 potential customers into a room where the researcher leads discussions and asks questions regarding information around your product or service. This allows the researcher to listen to what customers are talking about regarding the product or service and see how they really feel about it. In focus groups, you would really have to actually have an outside researcher complete these. That way you don't have the bias of the actual business owner trying to lead to certain results. Your advantages here, it allows you to obtain detailed information about what the customers know about your product and how they perceive it and how they feel about it. Your disadvantages, it can be very costly. You don't have to pay your researcher to do it, and you're also going to have to pay your customers to actually participate in the focus group. So there's some drawbacks with that. The last one is experimenting with your actual product or service through either a prototype or some type of an example that shows the people or the customers how your product would work. Okay, so things that you want to consider here, again, you could send out the product, you can see how people feel about it, you can get firsthand, you get feedback or things like that that would help you figure out what's good about your product, what things need to be changed. Okay, so your advantages with actual experimenting with the actual product is you get to receive real data on the actual product and you can adjust the product as necessary. Your disadvantages are definitely getting people to actually try the product, and people may not be honest, and it could actually be very costly for you because you have to create the product or service. Okay, so thinking about the 5 different types of methods that we talked about here. Okay, there's many different. No method is better than the other, but you definitely want to pick and choose which one do you think will best work for you or type of business and the questions that you're trying to answer. Okay, different things you want to consider. How much time do you have available to research? How much money do you have for research? So you're going to be able to spend money, and what are your goals? Okay, so when we come back on Monday, we're actually going to talk about how developing some things about our business and what questions we need to ask, and we'll start coming up with some research questions for our surveys. So before we go to that, though, I do have an assignment that you're going to work on for the rest of the class period. If you scroll down in your lesson resources, in 4.3 there's a market research study. What this item is a research study from some research that some people have actually done, and what they were trying to figure out is that actually people would use some food vendors inside of a park to help raise money to support maintenance costs in the park. After research is done, you have to put it into a report so that people can read it and see your results in a written format. Okay, so what your focus here is you're going to read through this to see what a market research study looks like. Instead of you completing one of these, I'm going to actually have you put your results onto a poster to better explain them. Okay, so I want the purpose of this for you to get an idea of what a research study is going to look like. So I ask that you skim through the different sections, and you'll notice there are many different sections here. Okay, and on the bottom there are some questions that you're going to answer. So this first part, it talks about, okay, I want you to identify and describe the purpose of each section of the study. So you'll notice there are 6 sections up here, starting with abstract. So you're going to look through the abstract, and in section 1 you're going to tell me, okay, what is the purpose of this abstract and what are they talking about it. Number 2, you're going to go to the next section, which is the background, and tell me what the purpose of the background section is. Then you're going to go through, once you finish that, and answer some questions regarding the research study that you view. Okay, you do not need to respond in big paragraphs. You do not need to have big sentences. You just need to answer it enough to where the question is answered and you feel good that you've answered it to a good level. Okay, so again, you're really figuring out what a research study is and see what kind of information is included. That way when we do our posters, you know exactly what you need to throw up in there, and we'll be ready to move on. Okay, so we will continue on Monday. This item is due when you come back to class on Monday, so you are allowed to work in groups. If you want to split up the questions and have your group members work on different sections of this, you're welcome to do so. But again, it's due Monday. I'll see you then, and we'll move on in lesson 4. Have a good rest of your day.